Welcome, everyone! Today we're breaking down a massive, crazy fast chain of events that recently went down in Raipur. Just imagine for a second, you wake up, look out at the neighborhood your family has lived in for generations, big, open courtyards, lots of space, and suddenly you realize that by sunset, you'll literally be packing your entire life into a truck, headed for a totally different part of the city. I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, right? But this was the very real, very sudden reality for the people of Nakti village. Today we're going to look closely at exactly what happened on the ground to trigger such a massive shift. We'll explore how the local administration managed the insane logistics of moving hundreds of people almost overnight. And honestly, most importantly, we're going to dive into what these families are actually experiencing right now in their new, highly standardized living situations.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why did the people of Nakti village change their homes so suddenly in the first place? Well, the direct inciting incident here was a super swift anti-encroachment bulldozer action. Basically, the local administration initiated a massive drive against what was deemed illegal occupation in Nakti. Now, I really want to emphasize the word sudden here. This was absolutely not one of those slow, phased-out, multi-year transitions where, people had months to prepare or plan and slowly pack up all their stuff. Nope, it was an abrupt, highly visible administrative enforcement action. The Hadro machinery just rolled in, and that immediate action demanded an equally immediate reaction. The sheer suddenness of this anti-encroachment drive is really the critical shadow hanging over this whole story. Because think about it, when the bulldozers arrive in the morning, those affected families need an on-the-spot relocation effort before the day is even out.
Phase 1. Bulldozer action in Nakti, the immediate aftermath.
The timeline here is actually truly fascinating, mostly because of the sheer speed and the massive logistical scale of the administrative response. Let's walk through exactly how this unfolded. Step 1. The sudden anti-encroachment action happens on the properties in the village. The dust is, quite literally, still settling on the rubble. But then, right on the heels of that, Step 2 kicks in almost instantaneously. The administration didn't just clear the land and leave these newly displaced residents to fend for themselves. Actually, scratch that. They were instantly allotted new, permanent homes, what we call pucka houses, in multi-story buildings over in Sector 30. And this was all operating under the Pradhan Mantri Almafsyorna. And then we get to Step 3, which is a pretty unique detail in these kinds of situations. To make sure this sudden why turned into a functioning how, local administrative teams actually brought in their own convoys of vehicles. They physically took charge of loading up and transporting the villagers' household goods across the city to ensure a really swift, heavily managed transition.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Phase 2, a new dawn in Sector 30, the proposed solution. The administration is presenting this as a massive, highly successful, and perfectly executed rehabilitation effort. And according to their official statements, this abrupt move resulted in exactly 0 families being left homeless. Every single affected family was immediately handed the keys to a newly allocated pucka house. But as we all know, a house is kind of just a concrete shell without utilities, right? Well, the administration firmly asserts that they checked off all the essential boxes right from day one. We're talking about guaranteed functioning access to electricity, we're talking about secure running water lines, and we're talking about fully established road connectivity to link them up with the rest of the city. So from the government's perspective, this was a holistic, seamless relocation that ultimately prevented a major humanitarian crisis.
But that brings us to Phase 3, new challenges for villagers, the reality on the ground.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that a successful administrative operation on a spreadsheet doesn't always guarantee a seamless transition for the actual human beings living through it. The permanent homes provided under the PM Awaz Yojana in Sector 30 are strictly one-bedroom hall and kitchen units, a 1 BHK. Now, for a lot of us living in densely packed urban centers, a 1 BHK apartment might sound perfectly normal and manageable, but you really have to view this through the lens of traditional village living. Back in Nakti, these families were super accustomed to sprawling multi-room structures, wide-open courtyards, and detached spaces that easily accommodated traditional multi-generational households. Moving from that expansive horizontal footprint into a standardized vertical 1 BHK apartment, that is an incredibly jarring reality check. To truly understand the deep human impact of this standardized housing policy, I want you to listen to this direct quote from an elderly female resident who is relocated from Nakti. She explains her daily reality right now like this. I have 2 daughters-in-law, 2 sons, and myself. We are 5. I had a very big house. I need at least 2 rooms. I'll make do with 2 rooms. I mean, this perfectly captures the core friction of this entire relocation. Let's just think about the sheer math she just laid out.
You have 5 full-grown adults, a traditional joint family, trying to physically squeeze their entire lives, their privacy, and their daily routines into a single bedroom and one small hall. She isn't asking for luxury at all. She's explicitly saying she would make do with just 2 rooms. But right now, because of how sudden and standardized this move was, the physical space provided simply cannot contain her family's basic structure. It's like trying to fit a giant puzzle into a tiny box.
And this brilliantly illustrates the two totally different, yet simultaneously true realities coexisting in Sector 30 right now. On one hand, the administration sees a perfectly executed checklist. They kept their promise, they achieved zero homelessness, they provided essential living amenities almost overnight, essentially preventing thousands of people from sleeping on the streets after a massive anti-encroachment drive. But then on the flip side, the daily reality for the villagers is a claustrophobic puzzle. A 1 BHK setup is proving to be highly, sometimes impossibly, insufficient for traditional, multi-generational families. Think about your own living space right now. Got it? Now imagine shrinking it down to a fraction of the size overnight and packing your entire extended family into it. That is the direct clash we're seeing here between rapid, standardized urban housing policy and complex, deeply rooted traditional family structures. So, that brings us to the ultimate question as we wrap up our analysis today. Will the administration recognize this intense spatial friction and step in to make further customized arrangements for these larger families? Maybe offering additional space or combined units? Or is this 1 BHK allotment the absolute final setup they're just going to have to adapt to? Remember, the absolute core of this story is that the people of Nakti Village moved because of a sudden, uncompromising anti-encroachment drive. The physical move happened in an absolute flash, but navigating these constrained living conditions in Sector 30, that's going to be a daily reality for these residents for decades to come. It really invites us to ponder a difficult balance. How in the world do we reconcile the swift, unyielding pace of modern civic development with the intricate spatial needs of human tradition? Thank you so much for joining me to break down this complex issue. Keep questioning the world around you, keep learning, and I'll catch you in our next deep dive.